welcome back to Urban Today. With the public and legislatures questioning the service provision of Umeme, we wanted to get some of your feedback. You can still send that to us. Find us on Facebook and on Twitter. Let's take a quick look at what you guys had to say. Opina Derek says, it will be better if they resign the contract under new terms and conditions voted by the public and more public-friendly. Innocent Prince Akakutesa says, government cannot do 40% of what Umeme has done. They should be patient. We still need electricity. We do not want to see Umeme follow Uganda Railway and other places to the grave. Joel Hendura crowns us off by saying, incompetent company for a developing country like Uganda, please terminate and let's start some more. All right, well, we're going to be looking at some of those, concerns with the Public Relations Officer, Julius Wandera, in the studio as the Public Relations Officer for the Electricity Regulatory Board. Thanks so much for coming and joining us on the couch. I think one of the reasons why we have you here as the PR person is what do you do when the public has such a negative outlook on your power provision?
Thank you very much. And just to emphasize my introduction, I'm called Julius Wandera.
Yes.
I work for the Electricity Regulatory Authority. On the contrary, I do not work for Umeme. I work for the regulator, the regulator of the electricity sector. Now, there are quite many things as to why the public might have negative views and negative sentiments about the service provision in electricity. Electricity consumers have got their anticipation in electricity being available all the time. Electricity consumers are not very much bothered with what gymnastics you have here and there.
Absolutely.
They have four things that govern their relationship with electricity service in the country. One is they look at affordability.
Yes.
Consumers always want electricity which is affordable. Okay, but affordability in relation to the cost effectiveness of the service they are receiving. As long as they're able to pay for the service they are using, they have no problem. The other thing is reliability. Consumers look forward to, is electricity available? If I walk to my house, my shop, and I switch on, am I able to do what I'm supposed to do? And then the other thing is that they want information. They don't want to be kept in the dark. When things are happening, for example, there's going to be an outage, a service outage. They would like you to let them know and keep on letting them know that there's going to be an outage, and for that reason, they will be interrupted at such and such a time. So once you have those issues and those demands fulfilled, electricity consumers, they will not have any issues with you. But I would like to augment one of the comments you've read out from one of the people viewing, who has said that the electricity sector has come from a long way from where it was. I would like consumers to understand that the sector, yes, is full of challenges, but this is a sector which is capital intensive. Investing in infrastructure development in the electricity is just like investing in road. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of money. We can agree that Umeme has had its own challenges, left, center, and right, but where they met us is not where we are.
Yeah, thank you so much, Julius. Now, first and foremost, why isn't your boss here?
Very good. My boss is not able to be here because he got an engagement which was quite quick.
Okay.
And so he's traveled. He's
Okay.
not within town.
Okay.
And so I'm here able to represent him. And if you need an economist, he will be joining us shortly.
Okay. But when he comes back to town, let him know that the couch needs him back.
Certainly, certainly.
Now, we consumers of power want to know, what are you regulating? Why? Are you regulating costs? Because electricity costs are going up. So are you going to regulate those? One, two, we can't have power when we want it. So are you regulating in the sense that you make sure that when we don't want power is when we need it, and when we want it is when we don't have it? Is that what you're regulating?
You know, the regulator of the electricity sector regulates a whole package of things. We actually regulate cost, like you said rightly.
But it is in the roof.
Yes, but then we may need to look at what costs, what causes a build-up of a power tariff. We regulate standards. Okay? We regulate the service it is sold. And we can say that our power tariff is probably high, and high like people always say. But high to what extent? Compared to what? Those are the issues. But many people have got lots of myths that came from, I think, the 1954 era, when oil fields was built. They say the cost of electricity in Uganda is higher than in Kenya, higher than Tanzania, higher than everywhere. When you ask them for factual information, as today as we speak, they are not able to provide that. So we regulate cost, we regulate standard, we regulate quality, but we have to agree that there are challenges on this walk to regulation of electricity.
So you are correcting the myth that Uganda's power is not the most expensive.
No, it's not.
So it's lower than where?
Well, electricity has got several segments. okay? The coding of electricity
No, I'm
prices.
talking about the consumer. Uganda's electricity at the consumer end lower than the cost in Kenya?
Yes, we are. I have statistics with me, which I can actually refer to as you go on.
Yeah. Is it lower than Rwanda?
We are actually lower than all those, probably Tanzania, with the exception of Tanzania.
Tanzania.
Let me just get my little document here.
Well, okay, as you get the document, I think Samson does bring up a good point, because at the end of the day, nobody cares whether you're
What's the cost is elsewhere.
No. At the same time, nobody cares who the power play is. What they care about is low tariff. And that's the question, is why is it, as a regulatory body, are you seeing tariffs go up as opposed to stabilizing or going down?
No, but you see, I can actually say that I'm sorry, tariffs are not only going down as the insinuation could be. In 2009, the electricity end user tariff for domestic consumer was about 426 shillings. In 2010, the tariff dropped. It came to 310 for domestic, about 310, 380 for domestic consumer. About 2012, and at that time government was heavily subsidizing the sector. About 2012, the tariff was revised upwards. When it was revised to 520.6, something like that. Okay, the current tariff is running, oscillating around that, around that. Now, there are factors that cause the growth of an end user tariff. And contrary to what people normally think, that all the money they pay in electricity tariff goes to Umeme. There are so many players in the electricity segment to whom that tariff goes. The money that Umeme takes out of the 520 is the smallest segment problem. A lot of the money goes to the generators, the people who generate electricity. The end user tariff that you pay is like the cost you pay for anything, okay? It has to meet the generation costs, has to meet the transmission costs, has to meet the distribution costs. Those are the three layers that make up the electricity supply system. Okay? The generators manufacture the electricity, to use a layman's language, like Vijagari, like ESCOM. And they sell their electricity at a certain cost to the transmission company that moves the heavy electricity.
So in other words, what you're saying is that the end user, the consumer, is bearing the burden of all those costs at the end of the day.
He's not bearing a burden. He's actually paying for the service receiving through all those.
I understand that the service is being paid for, but why is it that it has to continuously go up? As a regulatory body, the idea is to stabilize.
Yeah, you see, electricity has got so many influence on it, and we cannot say that it continuously goes up. It keeps
You've
going
just
up.
proven that in the last 2 years, you've had a spike go from 400 to 500. That's going up.
You skip the 380, that's going down.
Yes, but it's
Then
now
it
at
came
500.
up. Yes, now it's 500. And I would like to, you see, we need to ask ourselves, what is the cost of generating electricity? Okay, and the dynamics have changed. We had times when government was actually heavily subsidizing this sector. Government decided to withdraw direct subsidies to the sector.
So you'd say that's one of the factors?
That's one of the factors. Why? Because the burden that was being that was being held by government was released to the end user consumers. So consumers must meet it themselves. Okay. Now, after that has happened, we have issues that affect the sector, like macroeconomic factors. Macroeconomic factors include the movement of exchange rates, the cost of oil on the global market, okay, and inflation. Those are factors that keep switching what the electricity end user tariff would be. That's why in January we decided to come up with a system called quarterly tariff adjustment. A quarterly tariff adjustment is a mechanism that will be able to factor in the movements in macroeconomic factors, upwards or downwards. If they go out upwards, the consumer will take up the tariff. If they go downwards, then the consumer will take up the benefit by a drop in the electricity tariff.
Yeah. Now, Julius, when you talk of a regulator, my understanding is a thermostat or a stabilizer.
Right.
Because the function of a stabilizer is that at the end, there would be stable power, right? Now, there are fluctuating prices of electricity where we have a regulator. Is the regulator doing their job?
Yes, very much so.
How?
You see, in the fluctuation of end user electricity tariff, it's very difficult for anyone to determine what the macroeconomic what the exchange rate and so on will be tomorrow. Not even Bank of Uganda can fix it and say, this is what it's going to be.
Okay.
There are so many factors that lead to that. And those are factors that have knock-on effects. Once there is a shift in exchange rate, it has a knock-on. Why is exchange rate very important? I would like you to comment something. all electricity companies that are generating electricity have got their contracts world over, denominated in US dollars. ESCOM generates, Obujagali generates electricity and sells it to the transmission company in USD. Okay? The transmission company gets electricity and sells it to Umeme, who distributes in Uganda shillings. Umeme collects money from us who use electricity in shillings, has to pay back transmission. Transmission must go and look for a dollar, okay, and buy dollars to be able to pay the generation companies. Now, you cannot dictate on the generation companies that let's denominate or do the agreements in the Ugandan shilling. No, why? Because these are international companies. They have borrowed in USD themselves. There is no way they can actually take the risk of the fluctuation in the cost of the currency. Those are the issues. That's why it's difficult to predict.
So you are saying that until Jesus Christ comes back, we will always have power rates fluctuating.
Power rates will always fluctuate upwards and downwards.
So there is no use for a regulator?
No, there is. You know what the regulator does? He fixes what is called a base tariff.
I mean, as far as the price is concerned, where do I benefit from your work as a regulator?
Very good. Now you've asked a very good question. Where do you benefit from our work as a regulator? When pick another company that comes to Uganda to generate electricity, could be, let's say, Jagai. When they come in, they ask for a permit to study the site they want to develop. After studying and they are satisfied, they will come and ask for a license. The license that is given to them also states, okay, the cost at which they are going to sell their electricity. Who does that? That's the regulator. Okay? Otherwise, they would sell the electricity transmission at any cost. But they sell at a particular cost. For example, we are buying ESCOM's electricity at probably 0.4 cents, just. I'm not very accurate on that, but it's about so. But that money is fixed by the regulator. Otherwise, ESCOM would generate electricity and they say, you're going to buy our electricity at 10 US cents. That is fixed by the regulator. Now, it's these fluctuations between the amount of money at which UETCL pays ESCOM, that gap, that fluctuates.
But the other one remains.
The other one is there fixed. That is it.
Well, okay, I realize you clearly stated that you are not a public relations person for Umeme, but indeed, you're interconnected. So I think it's fair enough for me to ask you this question. We've seen a systematic change in the way billing has been handled. We no longer consume and pay, we prepay. What implication do you think that has had in your regulatory work?
Okay. Prepayment is a system of metering that is, that firstly Ugandans were asking for.
No.
Hold on a second.
No.
Let me give you something.
We were forced to have.
Let me give you something. Ugandans were asking us everywhere we were on air. They used to give us examples. In Rwanda, even speaking in Venezuela, one Rwanda, we challenged left, center, and right on that, saying in Kenya and everywhere. So we said, fine, what is the advantage of prepayment to Uganda? Umeme losses were so at that length, and we're asking them to reduce losses. Now, they said one of the ways we can reduce these losses, among the very many strategies, let's go prepayment. Prepayment is that you buy your car and you use electricity. If it runs out, then you can buy another one. That way, we're able to avoid those who are stealing electricity because they're on post-payment. So it's an advantage to reduce us on stolen electricity.
Do you think as a public relations person it's working?
It's working. There could be challenges, and I know there are challenges with its implementation. Why? Because of limited sensitization. A lot of contractors went into places and installed this without proper sensitization of families and how they're going to use it. But I can tell you it's a very good power-saving mechanism. It's a very good mechanism on reducing power thefts.
Mr. Wandera, now, a few commentators over the subject of electricity in Uganda have talked about how we probably have more power than we need to, that the grid that we have is insufficient as far as this country is concerned. When are we going to see somebody investing in the grid?
Very good.
When?
That's a very
and
good.
why has that not been done up to now when there is a regulator?
Very good. That's a very good question. It has even excited me. I want to ask that when you have this show again, you invite a gentleman called Kenneth Otim. Kenneth Otim is the PR manager for UETCL.
Kenneth Otim.
Otim. Okay. A Uganda electricity transmission company.
Okay.
They are the people responsible for growing the national grid.
Okay.
They have mega plans to grow the grid. I do not have statistics here.
Plans for Vision 2050?
Not 2050. Currently, right now as we speak, they even have contractors already on the ground, growing the national grid, crossing the River Nile to West Nile, okay, stringing to many parts of the country where the grid is not. They have very senior plans on doing that. He's more placed to speak about that. But other than that, there is the usual distribution network. Umeme has done a lot to augment this network, I can assure you. This network was dilapidated at the time Umeme took it on, losing a lot of electricity because of old wires heating up and losing electricity. But they have gone on, replaced lots of lines, They have invested over $100 million in this network to ensure that, one, electricity is stable in supply, two, to ensure that electricity is able to go where it has not been. So there is serious investment that's going on in the sector.
Brilliant.
So, in other words, I wanted to ask, are we, as a public, being too impatient? Are we part of a group of people who are growing this infrastructure and have to so-called take one for the team?
You have actually used the right word. The public is only being too impatient. I was on one of the radio stations in town and somebody asked the same question that I said. In the early 2000s, government was doing the road from Jinja to Busia. One time when I was traveling to Busia, it took me 8 hours between Jinja and Busia. 8 hours. The inconvenience was very huge. The road was very bad. One time Wafulu Gut even wanted to mobilize people to go and protest. Right now on the same road, to take from Jinja to Busia, it takes me less than 40 minutes driving there. You see, the public is only being impatient. And we have given them as much information as we can, and we will continue giving them.
So you're using the road analogy to say
that infrastructure development in the electricity sector takes time. It takes time, and people need to be patient.
So with the tariffs that we're paying, our children and our children's children will pay less?
That is very good. We are actually anticipating that with the tariff you're paying, when cheaper sources of energy like Karuma comes on board, which will come on board probably the next 4-5 years.
And the oil sector also.
The end user tariff will really go down significantly because that's cheaper energy coming on board. And once cheaper energy comes on board, it pushes the tariff
Actually,
down.
maybe you need to talk to us a little bit about the relationship that you do have with the oil and gas sector in terms of provision of extra energy for us to use in the country, because you ask yourself why it is, if the grid is expanding in the manner in which you are saying that it is, if there's a regulatory body in place and there's all this infrastructural growth, why is it that we still can't afford power?
You know, and me, I do not want to agree with that we cannot afford power, because electricity costs 520.4 shillings. I don't think of any Ugandan who cannot afford this electricity.
You haven't spoken to a lot of Ugandans in a
I
long
have.
time.
I have spoken to Ugandans, those who do milling. I have spoken to Ugandans who use it domestically. I have spoken to the industrialists. I have spoken to all segments of Ugandans. You'll actually discover that the people who make noise about electricity being unaffordable are those who don't pay for it.
You're saying we're making noise?
No, I'm not saying you're not making noise.
I'm one of those making noise.
Then there is a likelihood that you don't actually pay for your electricity.
That's an overstatement.
You know, it's no secret. Members of Parliament are questioning somehow the distribution, the regulation, all aspects of the energy sector. We're hoping it will improve. Thank you so much for being here.
My
We
pleasure.
appreciate Julius
My
for
pleasure.
coming and explaining
Thank you so much.
these truths to us. All right, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking a little bit more about Umeme. Keep those questions and those comments coming on our Facebook and our Twitter page. We'll be back on Urban Today.